Hello, welcome back. I'm Jeff Byers, ANY150. This is Module 6, and this is Lighting Part 5. So we're on our 5th tutorial. So we have everything put together, all these modular pieces all put together to create this scene. And basically, you can build this any way you like. This is just an example of what you can build, but I want to have something about this deep, okay? And at least 3 sections, and you'll need to have at least 2 big ones and the small ones. If you want to make the sections longer, you sure can. But I want something about this deep, so just prospectively, this is what we got, okay? And again, I won't accept something that's too small or too short. Something like that would be too short. Alright, so let's at least 3 sections would be great. Alright, I appreciate that. So the next thing we're going to do is we need to set up our camera, and we can work out of perspective. We're going to be working out of perspective a lot, but we need to set up our camera properly. So let's go ahead and get that camera set up. So we're going to go to Create. We're going to go to Cameras, and we're just going to go right into this first camera. Okay? Pretty simple. Alright, so the camera, we'll go ahead and pull it up and bring it back towards us. Okay? And we'll kind of put it kind of in the middle maybe, and then we'll just rotate it towards the object. There we go. And I still have my snap on for the rotational value. To take that off, I can double click on that and go into Step Snap and turn that off. I like it on, but I can turn it off anytime I want by just doing that. Okay, cool. Alright, so now I'm going to look through the object. Okay, so I'm going to go to Panels, Look Through, Selected. Okay? Alright, Look Through, Selected. While we're on here, if I click on this, I'll just go ahead and do, what does this say? Near clip plane, 0.00, yeah, that's good. Edit, reset settings, and look through selected. And there we go. There we're looking through our camera. So I'm going to move it back, right? Move it back, rotate it, and get a nice looking. Now I need to, I'm going to kind of off-center this a little bit. I don't want to look straight down. Off-center just a little bit, make it look interesting. And we want to get that edge here, so we don't want that to render. Alright, something like that would be fine. You could go a little bit lower with your camera and move the camera up if you want to. So you can see more of the floor and the ceiling. That's cool too. We got the camera set up though. Okay, something like that. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into render settings. So get all that stuff set up so we can go ahead and start rendering our pieces. Alright, so with that said, we're going to do Arnold Renderer, and this is going to be our default settings for right now. We're going to go to the Comments tab, and the only thing I really want you to mess with is make sure you're on HD 540, okay, on presets. Everything else is good. That's all you have to do for that. And then in here, below your viewport, this is your viewport menu, I'm going to have you click on Resolution Gate. Now that basically whites out anything your camera will not render, anything outside that area. So that's a good way of kind of getting your camera set up, because there's nothing here. So I need to kind of set my camera up so I get a nice frame. Okay. And let me move it up a little bit more, so I'm just going to get it just right. Okay, there we go. Alright, so something like that would be great. Alright, so I'm happy with that. And so what we want to do is we want to set that camera. We used to have to go in here and lock the camera. So meaning that I would go in here with the camera on, and I would lock it. We can physically lock that camera. Okay? That means you cannot move it. Okay? So I'm going to basically click on this one and hold my left mouse button and just kind of go all the way down. And I'm going to go in here and I can go into Lock Selected. Okay? If I do that, just remember you can't do anything now. I mean, I can't move this camera. I'm trying to move it and you can't. Okay? So to unlock it, you would have to select everything. Alright? Right click over it and then Unlock Selected. Okay, so you can lock it and unlock it. I'm going to go ahead and lock it because I don't want to move it. Right? So I'm going to show you how to get into another viewport. So this is our camera. It's locked. We got it all set up. We're fine. We don't want to move it. In fact, we don't want to move it. We don't want to animate it right now. It would be cool to kind of walk through. That would be kind of cool and animate that, but that would take forever. I'm at about an hour per frame to render in full resolution at HD. Basically 540. HD. I'm rendering at 3 minutes and 17 seconds. So you can see that's quite a change between 540 and 1080. So huge change there. Be prepared to have your scenes render about 3 to 4 hours. Okay, I don't know what your system, how fast your system is. Mine's pretty fast, and it renders about an hour or so. So be prepared for that. Alright, so let's go into our outliner. That's the next thing we're going to do. I've already got all my lights set up, and so we're going to have I'm going to have you turn in a mood lighting, and I'm going to have you turn in full light. So I've got everything set up. You can see on this side here. So I've got emergency lighting and accent lighting, and I got physical lighting. Okay, so we're going to start with our physical lighting first. Then our accent, which will be part of our physical lighting. That'll be on all the time. And then we have emergency lighting, okay, which is really cool. That's going to be our mood lighting. So full light first, okay, with accents, and then emergency lighting with accents. Okay, so that'll give you your mood render. So we're going to have 2 renders for our final renders from this one single window from the camera. Okay. Right, with that said, we're going to recreate physical lights. Now, how do I get into another camera so I can move around? Up here, you can go to Panels, Perspective, and this is the normal perspective. Okay, you can go back and forth between the two by going to Panels, Perspective, and let's go to Perspective. Okay, now I can move around the camera, move around and do my own thing and just kind of ignore that camera, right? And so I can place things. So to do physical lighting, and I prefer this, I really do, for interior scenes, physical lights, meaning that the objects are real. You can see them. Now, normal lighting, when you create it, like if I go into create, and if I go to lights, I can create, do not use ambient lights. You can create a directional light. We've talked about that. That gives us shadows. Point light will give us shadows. Spotlight will give us shadows. And area light will give us shadows. Do not use ambient light or volume light. You can mess around with any of these, but I prefer physical lighting. Lights that you can see, that will physically render. Okay. Right now, I'm not going to use any of these lights. In fact, I'm going to light my scene through physical lights. Okay. To do that, Arnold will allow us to, if we create an object, we can actually make that light emissive, meaning that you can see it. Okay. Create a mesh light. So that's how I created these. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'll get you started, and then what you'll do, and I'll show you how to duplicate it. You can't just Control D it. You cannot Control D as in David. You have to go to Special Duplication. I'll show you where that is and how to use it. All right. So in here, we're going to go to Create, and I don't need to use that. I don't need to go that way. Let's go to Polygon and then click on Cube, and that'll click on a cube somewhere in your scene. Grab a hold of it, get it closer to you, right? And this is where we're going to start with. Okay, so what I need to do from the top view, I need to know I want it to go into those crevices. This is why I created this light the way it is, that structure, so we could put our lights in there. Okay, now we don't need a whole lot of lights. I don't want to do it for every one of them. I just want to do it for every other. Okay, and you can see I kind of spaced them out a little bit evenly all the way across. So from the top view, yours might be a little different because I don't know how you're going to build yours, but if you build it just like mine, then this will be pretty easy for you. Okay, so what you're going to do, you're going to take that cube and you're going to create one. You're going to click on one of these guys, and I'm just going to do it to this one here. So you're just going to move it. You can see this right here. I'm going to fit it within that little area. That made it easy for me to figure that out because I created it. And I'm going to go ahead and just kind of scale that up. Like I said, this is easy. Lighting is actually not that bad. I think people just don't know how to do it properly. I've been doing it for a long time. In fact, that's kind of my specialty area. I love the light scenes. And I know a lot about lighting. And let's see here. Let's go in here and scale that up a little bit more. All right. Okay. So we've got the scale now. Now we need to thin it out a little bit. So we're going to really thin that out. So I want you to thin it out. Be careful not to go like that. I just went inside of itself. Did you see that? So I need to go down just a little bit. Make it paper thin. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pop it into that space. Okay? All right, I'm going to hit the F key. That's really important. F key lets you kind of frame that light and move it. You don't want it to have it disappear within the ceiling, so pull it down. We don't really want it intersecting too much. Just right below it. We're talking about just a hair. There we go. And then all you have to do is go in here and you will create a light. So you're going to have it selected. Okay. And I'm going to go in here to Arnold. Okay. And then I'm going to click on this guy right here. So the object selected that you want it to be a light, a physical light, and we're going to go ahead here and click on it. And it will give you this evaluation error. Just ignore that. Okay. I'm going to zoom out a little bit, click somewhere else. Click back on it, and it actually worked. Okay, so it worked. It's fine. It turns red. Okay, all right. If it did it, it turned red. There we go. Okay, with that light selected, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to get into the attributes. So Control A. Let's go ahead and click off again, and let's try that again. Control A. All right. So in this one, you can see that I'm going to try to copy what I have here. Okay. So with this light, which means that it basically sets up. What happened to that? There we go. It sets up at intensity at 1, exposure at 0, and so on and so forth. So what I want you to do is I want you to set the light up like this. Okay, color will be white, intensity will be 5, exposure will be 5. You want the light to be visible. You want it to render out. Okay. Samples at 1. Normalize check mark. Cast shadows check mark. Shadow density, we're going to keep it at 1. Shadow color at black. Cast volumetric shadows, sure, why not? I think if we had fog in here, we want to do volumetric lighting, we'd have to have that on, but we could turn that off if we wanted to, because that might slow us down a little bit. But I have it on. If you run into really high renders, turn that off and see if it makes a difference. That might help. All right. So with that done, I want you to follow those. So go ahead and set your main light set up with that before you start duplicating anything over. So set your one light up, okay, like this. Go ahead and pause this. You can see everything that I've got here. There's nothing below that. So go ahead and stop, pause the video. Okay, get that exactly, and then we'll duplicate them over. So if I don't want to do this, I like what I have. So what you want to do is you want to go kind of space them apart a little bit, okay? And you can see from the top view that you can see how I spaced them. They're all red, so you can see them. So I've got 2 on the outside. That's going to illuminate this part right here. You need to do that. Okay, even though the camera is cutting that off, it's still going to illuminate this part of the scene. Okay, and this one is where I want you to place them. Okay, I just created this one to show you how to create the light, right? Okay, that's the whole idea. I'm not going to keep this one. Okay, what you want to do now is you want to select it, and you want to rename it. Okay, so you need to be in the channel editor, so you'll have to do a Control A to get it to the channel editor, make sure it's selected, and then you can go in here and rename it. And I called these lights, okay, these lights are going to be called physical main light, or just called main light, and I would put a _01. So let's call this main light, right? underscore. Now I can't do underscore 01 because I've already got one called that. So I'm going to say something like 50. Alright. Alright, so what you do now is you select it. And let's just say I have it in this spot right here. Okay. Let's just move it over here like this. And I want to go ahead and duplicate it all the way down, and I can do that. Okay. So I'm going to go in here, and you can see that I've got these spread out, and you can see where they're at. Okay. I know it's hard to see this one. This one's right there too. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on this side, and then after I get all those set up, okay, then I duplicate them, the whole thing. I select them all again and duplicate them, a special duplicate, and move them down and over on this side. Okay, what I do on this side, I can duplicate special and put it on this side. All right. So with that said, now these lights have inputs. Okay, these lights have special nodes and attributes that no other object has. It's not like duplicating an object. So it's going to be impossible for Maya to understand that if you just do Control D, right? So Maya, you got to go into Edit. Okay, this is for lights. Lights only right now. And then Edit, Duplicate Special, and then go into the option box. Once you go into the option box, then you tell it how many copies you want. I'm just going to do one at a time. Believe me, that's the way to do it. And then click on Duplicate Input Graph. Now, because it is an Arnold specialty light, you need to select that. Okay, duplicate input graph. All right, and then duplicate special, and look at that. And then I can duplicate it and place it wherever I want to. Now, I don't want these lights, of course. There we go. And then once you get them all arranged, now what you'll have to do with each light, this is kind of a pain in the butt. It's the setup time that takes the longest. Go to your perspective. Okay, rotate around in there and hit the F key, and that'll frame. And what you want to do is you want to make sure again that the light source, the light object, is placed exactly where you want it. Okay, you can't have it too far into the geometry, otherwise you won't see it. So you can see I'm going to go right down the hallway here, and you can see where I put it. You cannot be intersecting other geometry. Okay, that's a no-no. You can see where I put that. And you see I was very, very careful where I place these. Okay, cool. Alright. So with that done, once you get that completed, you can pause the video until you get that done. So go ahead and pause the video. Alright, so just unpause the video. And so now I want to get rid of this guy right here. The one I just created, I don't want. You want to keep yours. So what I want to do is I want to go down the line here with all of these lights. So I'm going to go ahead and select every single one of them one at a time. I'm not exactly sure what that's doing there, but let's get rid of that one. I don't need that. Alright, so this one, little rascals. Let's look at that one. And that one. And this one. There we go. So sometimes they're hard to grab, so you have to get kind of close. There we go. Alright, so now we can go right down the line, get up close, and just kind of... There we go. So now I've got them all selected. Alright, you're going to do the same thing that we did before to duplicate, because these are lights. They're not considered objects anymore. So now we're going to go to Edit, Duplicate Special into the option box, and Duplicate. Okay, just make sure that's selected, and then click Duplicate Special. I've already done it, so don't So duplicate special, right? And then move it over, and you have to do the same thing. That you'll have to make sure every single light. Don't assume that they're exactly the right. You go to every single light, and just make sure that it is correctly placed. So I go down to every single one of them. I physically look at them. Don't think that they are or assume that they are. I'm just hitting the F key and just checking every single one of them. And sometimes you have to make these really small movements, and that's okay. Alright, so you got that done. And now you want to do a quick test render. Okay, so you got, basically you have this lighting system that I have set up, and you're ready, you're good to go. Basically, one last thing that we're going to do is we're going to set up our accent lights. So the accent lights will actually be on with these lights, and they're going to be physically based lights too. So I'm going to create another object. I don't know why I keep going there. Go on the shelf, it's much faster. And move it towards you. Okay. And what I want to do for my particular piece, now you might have something different because I said you guys could kind of put your own detail in there. But if you don't have the same detail, well, you know, then create an accent light somewhere else, right? So I'm going to go in here and create that accent light, and it's just as easy as just, you know, shaping an object here. And I just want to keep it pretty thin. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move it back in. And I might want to turn on Wireframe on shaded so I can see what the heck's going on here. Hit the F key, kind of frame that. And now you can go in there and just kind of get it to the scale that you want. And this is probably the part that takes the longest. Okay. And then we'll go ahead and scale it out a little bit like that. And just get it to fit in within that area there. And it's important that you don't want to go side to side though. Have a little gap there. That's really important. Right, a little gap really helps. Okay. And that's my accent light. Okay. Now you don't want to duplicate it down. We're just going to have it on the pillars. I put them on the pillars because that's kind of a cool little area. You could put yours little lights down along here if you wanted to. It's kind of like ground lighting, you know, when you have an emergency or something like that. You see that ground lighting. This is the same kind of thing, right? I just want accent lighting. I don't want white lights though. I want them to be different lights. I want them different colors. You went through finding out what kind of colors and what kind of moods those colors invoke. So it's really important that we have a mood scene too as well. We're going to have a scene with a little bit of mood lighting. That's really important. So again, lighting, I got to have a bright light scenario. So let me give you an example of what we're looking for. So we're looking for something like this for your full light render. So this is going to be full lighting. That's with the lighting and the accent lighting. You can see that. And then we're going to have something that looks like this for mood lighting, which is really cool. I know a lot of you love this kind of lighting, and I do too. It's not all the time that I, you know, but this is kind of the lighting you get for emergency, like when the power generators go on, you know, when you watch those horror movies, you know, you get lighting like that. Everything's beautiful and warm and inviting, and you don't feel like, you know, but then you get into something like that, and wow, all of a sudden your mood changes. So I want one with full lighting, so I can see your textures, of course, and how nice it looks. And then we're going to do mood lighting, so we're going to do 2 renders. Okay, all right. So we're setting up the mood lights. You can see I got the mood lights on anyway. Okay. And a lot of times those are on in case power goes off immediately, and it takes a while for the emergency lights on, the red lights, overhead lights, and the generator to start. So these are the in-between lights. These lights are, you know, basically kind of like LEDs or whatever that technology would be in the future. But you get these LEDs and they're on all the time. That means they just kind of like fluorescent. They're constantly, doesn't need power or whatever. And then they're on all the time, even with the regular lighting. Okay, so that's the whole idea. Alright, so let's go ahead and move on. So once you get one done, I've already got one done, so I'm going to pull this out a little bit so you can see my lighting for that. I've got this in a layer here, accent lights, here we go. Okay, so here's my accent lights. Alright, let's take a look at those. Again, it's kind of hard. Let me get into my outliner. So Windows, outliner, it's a wonderful tool. It's a window that we can use, and I've got everything situated. So there's number 1. So actually I name everything. So I got my main lights, my accent light, and so number 1, I'm going to go click on that. Sometimes I have a hard time clicking these lights because the geometry is so close to it. So I just click on my accent light. I'm going to go Control A so you guys can see what I have set up for that. Alright, so let's try it again. Where are you? Oh, there it is. Alright, so no. For some reason my light is not. There it is, setting up. It's weird. Okay, wait a minute. I think I know what's going on. There's the physical light, and then there's the lights. Yeah. Okay, so you'll have to click on, open that up, and you'll have to click on one of these. There we go. So that shows up the light. All right, so the light, and I want you to follow these exactly, and you can play with them a little bit if you want to. But if you want the lighting to look like what I have in the renders that I showed you, then we're going to set the intensity, the color to blue, right? Okay. And we're going to set the intensity to 3 and exposure to 3. Light is visible. Samples is at 2. Normalize. Okay. I'm turning off shadows. I suppose we could have those on. If we had an object in its way, you're going to want to turn that on. Okay. Right now there's nothing in here. Let's go ahead and turn cast shadows on. It will slow things down. Okay. So turn that on, and you will get something that looks a little bit different than what mine is, right? Because I had mine turned off, right? Okay. So you can experiment and see what that looks like with it on, with it off. But the problem is, once you duplicate it over and you forget that you turn that off and you want to turn it on, you have to turn it on for every single light, which is, you can do that. It's just kind of a hassle. Alright, so get it set up the way you like it. I'm going to have mine off. And everything else looks good, looks about right. So I'm going to move that down a little bit so you can see. Alright, so these are all my settings. So go ahead and pause the video and then come back to it. Now I'm going to move on. So to duplicate, it's the same exact thing. You select the light, okay? Select the light itself, and I'm going to click on the whole thing here. Select the light, and what you're going to do is you're going to go up to Edit and Duplicate Special. Now you should have it all set up, so you don't have to worry about anything. Click Duplicate Special, and then you move the light over. I'm going to click off here, and you can see that there it is. It's pretty simple. So I'm going to click on it and delete it. I don't want that. Okay, I don't want this either. Okay. All right, so delete. There we go. So again, if for some reason that you duplicate it and you do a render and it's not working, it's probably because maybe you need to have everything selected, right? So that could be something that you can problem solve out. I have not had that issue, but I'm wondering if that could be an issue for some of you. I don't know. We'll see. So duplicate that over, and then do the same thing. Once you're done with one side, then rotate it and move it and make sure, and these guys right here have to be placed perfectly, because the problem is if I hit the F key, if they're off a little bit and go into the geometry, it will really mess things up. They cannot be intersecting with geometry. Okay? I can't stress that enough. So there's our lighting for the first lighting scenario. So the first lighting scenario will look kind of like that. Again, you can see how long it took, 5 minutes and 14 seconds. All right, so that's pretty cool. I mean, it's really cool to see your stuff come to life like this. It's really amazing. So Arnold is extremely powerful. I will tell you that. Some of you really are not really experiencing how incredibly powerful Arnold is. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close the outliner for now. So those are the lights we have right now. Okay. Now I've got an emergency light scenario here. Okay. My emergency light scenario. Okay. Let's turn off my physical lights and my accent lights. I put those all in layers. And you can see my emergency light scenario is going to be in these little cubby holes up here. And I'm not doing many, right? I'm doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got 6. If you go to the top view, they're way on the side. And I got 2 out here and all the way down. You see them spaced. Now I've got some extra ones down here by the door because I want that door to be red. Okay, really, really red back here. Okay, all right. So again, you will create a physical light. Okay. something that has this shape. Okay. Alright. So again, you know how to do that. You create a cube, right? Create a cube. Pull it over. Get it scaled right. And a lot of times I just went in here and went to the top view, right? And this is how I did it. I just went to the top view, got it centered like this. Let me do it in this one over here. And I just went in here and did what I'm supposed to do. Did my work like that. Just kind of shaped it. I don't want it to go through the wall, right? Just shape it so it just fits in there just perfectly, right? And then what I did was I scaled it down so it's nice and flat. Like that. That's fine. And then you move it into place. And that's all you have to do. Just make sure it doesn't go into the actual ceiling. Have it pulled down a little bit. Don't have it touching any of the walls. Geometry, okay? And then you're going to create, and then I'm going to have you guys go in here and set this up. So now I'm going to show you what I did here, okay? So in here I did bright red, intensity at 3, exposure at 3, and here's something that's new. I turned on use color temperature. I wanted it to be red. So a lot of times if you look at this image here, which I don't mind, the light itself that's illuminating that you see here is blue, but what you see in the reflection is white, right? Okay, see the reflection of the light here on the orange paint. Okay, so why are they different? The reflection is the same. So the idea is we got refraction going on, and that causes some issues. So if I go in here, and I have that on the temperature at 1000, it's going to give me a really warm tone, right? And so that tone is going to reflect properly. Okay? All right. It's supposed to, anyway, theoretically. So anyway, we're going to go in here, and light visible, samples when it occurs. You guys can look at this, pause this video. It should be pretty clear with my HD 1080 recordings. Alright, so we're good with that. Okay, now all I have to do is test your renders. Okay, so you'll do the same thing. When you duplicate, once you get one set up, you duplicate it down, and then when you get that done, again, you have to do a duplicate special. Don't forget, duplicate special. And then when you get all those, you select all of these, duplicate them, and move them over. And then you got to make sure that they're all positioned properly. That's important. Make sure you check every one. Alright? So with that said, I want you to put, once you get all that done, I want you to put your physical lights in a layer. I want you to put your accent lights in a layer. Those are the ones on the ground. Okay. All right. Call these physical main lights, and then we got one that's called accent lights, and we got one that's emergency lights. Okay. So the physical main lights with the accent lights. Okay. Turn those on for your first render. And if we go in here, don't put a sky dome. No sky dome. Nothing. Just these physical lights. This is all we have. Just these physical lights in here. No other lights. No key light, nothing. Okay, all right? Just let the lights do their work. Okay? So what I'm going to do is go back in here to render settings. And you need to do a fast, quick render first, which is around 5-10 minutes. That'll be HD 540, and we need to keep that really low. It's going to be kind of grainy. Don't worry. It's okay. Okay, with that said, we're going to get our lights set up again. Remember, panels, right? Perspective. And then we're going to click on this guy right here. And you can see that now we have our lights set up. And then all you have to do is go in here with your render. I'm going to close that. And you're going to go ahead and click on this guy right here. Okay, it's right by the eye. So the clapboard, render the current frame. Okay, I'm going to render that current frame. Okay, I have to turn off the, it's going to take a while. It's probably going to do these TX files for you first. It's going to basically exchange those texture files into a TX file. That's what Arnold likes. And so it's got to do a little calculation first, which is fine. But I'm going to pause this real quick because it takes about 5 minutes. Okay, we're back, and it just finished rendering. 4 minutes 19 seconds. It's even faster than it was before. I don't know what I changed, but anyway, it looks great. I mean, the lighting is perfect. You know, it's not mood lighting, but it's like very well lit. And we've got some shadows in here. It's just very nice and subtle. I think it looks really good. What you'll need to do is, this is the 540. You'll have to go in there and make some changes, and I'll show you how to do that really quick. So I'm going to go ahead and keep this. So if you want to keep your images in RAM, keep image, click on that, because you can see I can go through right when I started, all the way back to when I started from the very beginning when I was doing the lights and tweaking it out. Okay. Alright, so now we're going to do our mood lighting, but I'm going to show you how to get this rendered out. So always save your work though. Let's say you like this, it looks really good. Always save your renders. So go to File, and then go to Save Image and go into the option box. You have to make sure that Color Managed Image is on. If you have that on, if you forget to the save mode, and this is on raw image, it'll be super dark. You'll have to go into Photoshop or some kind of photo manipulating software to get the color or the brightness up higher. With that raw image, it'll be really super dark. It's almost like you can't even see it. So Color Managed Image is really important. Apply and close, and then go ahead and save this. And I usually just save it to the desktop. So Sci-Fi Hallway, right? And A. Alright, so save that. Okay. Alright, so that's the full lighting. And here are the settings for a full render. So the settings, when you go back into render settings, okay, we're not going to change the camera, we're good. So the full settings for render is going to be not, so we're going to be in common. We're going to go to HD 1080. Okay? Everything else is set up okay, you're fine. And Arnold Renderer, the only thing I want you to change is change to 3 to a 5 or 6. Now 5 is going to render a lot longer than 3, but 3 is going to be grainy. This is the quality of settings. When the photons bounce around, you get these little spots, little teeny spots. It's global illumination, and those little spots, to clear those up, the higher you have to go. But the higher you go, the longer it takes. Like if I go to 6, it'll be twice as long as 5, and then so on and so forth. So 3 is like preview renders, just to test your lighting, and then you go to 4, and then you go to 5, and then you go to 6. So I would go to 5 first. But the thing is, you know, you're already, if you got a couple hours that you can get away from the computer, or 3 or 4 hours to get away from the computer, go to 6 and just be done with it. Okay? 5 is good, but 6 is probably it's the highest you can go. If you go any higher, it won't make a difference. It really doesn't. Okay? For some lighting scenarios, between 5 and 6 is just fine. Okay? So keep it at 5. It'll render a little bit faster, be about twice as fast. But always render at 6. Just me. 6. Okay? Alright, so that's your settings then for your final scenes. That'll smooth all that graininess out and make your shadows look really good. So it's going to be wonderful. Okay? Now if you go up higher with the 3s, and I've told you that before, 3 and 3 with specular. So 6, 3, and 3 is like your ultimate setting, right? Okay? We don't really have any transmission going on, or subsurface scattering, or indirect lighting. We have just 3. This is like the ultimate setting. So this is like the OK setting, right? That's the OK setting. This is the ultimate setting. Yeah, the ultimate setting. Okay. So anyway, that's that. I'm just being funny. All right. So so have fun, enjoy. That just takes a while to render. Just make sure you do your preview renders first. Make sure they look fantastic before you commit to a huge render. Okay. Alright, so now the next thing you're going to do is you're going to keep the same camera, and you're going to turn your emergency lighting on. But now you need to turn off your physical, your main lights. Keep your accent lights at the bottom, like these guys right here. Keep these on, okay? I can't select them now, but there's these guys right here along the bottom. And then your emergency lights. And then I want you to do a preview first at 540. Make sure it looks good. And again, I'm not telling you you guys can't go in there and make changes to your intensity and exposure. Make sure that when you change the intensity, you change the exposure too. Okay? They're one and the same. Alright, so good luck with your renders, and I will see you guys in the instructions to turn in. So the turn in instructions will be in the next video. Anyway, have a great day, and I'll see you soon in the next video.